The bouquet nearly slipped from my hands when the security guard looked at me, pointed through the glass doors of my wife's company, and casually said, "You're too late. Her husband is already upstairs with her." I froze. For 3 years, I had been the man standing quietly behind her success, the husband who celebrated every promotion, every new contract, and every sleepless night she spent building her company. But now, as I followed the guard's finger and saw another man walking beside my wife, laughing as if he belonged there, something inside me broke. I had come to surprise the woman I loved. Instead, I was about to discover a secret that could change our marriage forever. Before we continue, if you believe that love deserves honesty, kindness deserves recognition, and people sometimes deserve a second chance, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Humanity Tales. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories about love, sacrifice, and the power of believing in people. My name is Daniel, and for most of my marriage, I had been comfortable being the person nobody noticed. My wife, Victoria, was the opposite. She was brilliant, ambitious, confident, and eventually became the CEO of one of the fastest-growing technology companies in our city. When we first met, she was working from a tiny rented office with 2 employees and a laptop that overheated every hour. I was the one who brought her coffee at midnight, listened to her ideas, helped organize invoices, and reminded her that failure was not the end. We didn't have much money back then, but we had something I thought was stronger than money: trust. As Victoria's company grew, our lives changed. She moved into a beautiful downtown office with marble floors, private elevators, and security guards at the entrance. Her name appeared in business magazines, investors requested meetings with her, and people who once ignored her suddenly wanted to shake her hand. I was proud of her. I truly was. But somewhere along the way, I started becoming invisible even to her. Dinners were cancelled. Anniversaries were postponed. Messages were answered hours later. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, she would smile tiredly and say she was simply overwhelmed. I kept telling myself that successful marriages required patience. So I became more patient. Then came our 5th anniversary. Victoria had been working almost 20 hours a day preparing for a massive corporate acquisition. She had forgotten our anniversary completely, and when she finally remembered, she promised she would make it up to me. I didn't blame her. Instead, I decided to surprise her at the office. I bought her favorite flowers, nearly 100 deep red roses, and drove downtown after lunch. I imagined the expression on her face when she saw me. Maybe she would forget the board meetings for a few minutes. Maybe she would hug me the way she used to. Maybe we would remember why we had chosen each other in the first place. But the moment I entered the lobby, the security guard stopped me. He was an older man named Marcus, someone I had seen several times before. He recognized me immediately, but his expression became strangely uncomfortable. When I asked if Victoria was upstairs, he looked toward the elevators, then pointed at a tall man in an expensive gray suit walking across the lobby. "That's her husband," Marcus said. My heart seemed to stop. I stared at the stranger. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring that I could see, but he walked through the building like he owned the place. He spoke to Victoria's assistant, and moments later Victoria herself appeared from a hallway. The smile on her face was not the tired smile she had given me lately. It was warm. Familiar. Almost intimate. The stranger leaned toward her and handed her a small box. Victoria opened it and immediately covered her mouth in surprise. I couldn't move. For a few seconds, jealousy and humiliation battled inside me. Then something unexpected happened. The man turned around, and I recognized him. His name was Michael Grant, one of Victoria's biggest investors. I had met him once, years earlier, when he was just another businessman attending one of her presentations. I was about to confront them when Marcus suddenly touched my arm. He looked genuinely worried and whispered that I should wait before making a scene. So I waited. Minutes later, Victoria and Michael entered a conference room. Through the glass wall, I could see them talking seriously. There was no romance. No secret kiss. No embrace. Just paperwork spread across the table. Then I noticed something else. Victoria looked terrified. I stepped closer, and although I couldn't hear everything, I saw Michael push a document toward her. Victoria shook her head. He pointed toward another folder, and she lowered her head into her hands. That was when I realized this wasn't an affair. Something much worse was happening. I left the building without confronting her. I sat in my car with the roses beside me and cried, not because I had seen another man, but because I realized my wife had been carrying a burden so enormous that she hadn't trusted me enough to tell me about it. That evening, Victoria came home late. She looked exhausted. I didn't accuse her. I simply placed the roses on the table and told her I had gone to surprise her. Her face changed instantly. She began crying. Then she finally told me the truth. 6 months earlier, one of her company's major financial partners had discovered serious fraud committed by a senior executive. Millions had disappeared. Victoria had personally guaranteed several loans to protect her employees, and now the company was dangerously close to collapse. Michael wasn't her secret lover. He was the investor trying to save the company before hundreds of people lost their jobs. Victoria hadn't told me because she was ashamed. She was afraid I would see her as a failure after spending years building the company. I took her hand and told her that the woman I married wasn't a CEO. She wasn't a millionaire. She wasn't a title on a business card. She was the woman who once sat beside me in a tiny apartment and dreamed about building something meaningful. And if everything disappeared tomorrow, I would still choose her. For the first time in months, she stopped pretending to be strong. She cried against my shoulder, and I held her until the silence between us finally disappeared. The following months weren't easy. Victoria sold her luxury car, reduced unnecessary expenses, and personally worked with investigators to expose the executive responsible for the fraud. I helped her organize the company's records and rebuild the systems that had been broken. We didn't save everything, but we saved enough. More importantly, we saved ourselves. A year later, Victoria's company had recovered. But she was different. She stopped measuring success by revenue and started measuring it by the people who trusted her. Every Friday, she left the office early. Every anniversary mattered. Every ordinary dinner became something worth protecting. And one evening, while we were walking past the same office building where everything had nearly fallen apart, Victoria stopped and looked at me. She smiled and said that the roses I had brought that day were still the most beautiful gift she had ever received. Not because they were expensive. Because they reminded her that even when she thought she had to carry the entire world alone, someone was still standing beside her. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes that love is built through patience and honesty, and subscribe to Humanity Tales for more stories that remind us why kindness still matters. And before the story ends, I want you to leave one special comment: would choose love over pride. Because sometimes the person standing beside us isn't asking us to fix their whole world. Sometimes they're simply hoping we won't walk away while they're struggling to fix it themselves. Daniel thought he was walking into his wife's office to surprise her. Instead, he discovered that the biggest surprise wasn't another man, it was the truth about how much pain the woman he loved had been hiding behind her success. And that day, he learned something he would never forget: a strong marriage isn't about never facing storms. It's about refusing to let the storm make you forget who you're fighting beside.